Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about something that happened just before Jurassic World opened to the public. In 2004, during Claire Dearing's first trip to the island, a death would happen on Isla Nublar that fundamentally changed her character in a pretty severe way. So the events that I'm going to be discussing today come directly from the book The Evolution of Claire, a canon story set within the Jurassic Park universe that takes place in between JP3 and Jurassic World. In the book, Simon Masrani was on his way to opening up the new park soon, and a special internship had been put in place to help find people to work in Jurassic World. This internship was called the Bright Minds Program, and among its participants happened to be a 19-year-old Claire Dearing and another person named Justin Hendricks, who she quickly falls for during her stay on Isla Nublar. Unfortunately, during that stay on the island, it quickly becomes apparent that some sort of secret event was covered up just before their arrival. Coupling this with some of the dinosaurs' unsafe behavior and the problematic illness of the brachiosaurs, and you've got a situation that Claire Dearing wanted to get to the bottom of as soon as possible. Now, as the story progresses, a couple of separate Bright Minds members actually attempt to hack the park's systems in an effort to steal data for a rival company. They do this during the arrival of a new dinosaur that was in the process of being imported from InGen's other island, Site B. Now, Justin and Claire, who had grown extremely close to one another during their time on Nublar, eventually find out about this act of espionage, and they make their way to the quarantine paddock in order to warn Simon Masrani of what was going on. Unfortunately, during the hack, the power that was being used for the security paddock gets cut, and the newly arrived female Velociraptor from Isla Sorna would get released into the jungle. This raptor would soon prove to be a major threat for Justin and Claire's survival. However, both of them knew that if they could just make it to the edge of the paddock, they'd have access to the park workers' weapons cache, which could help give them a fighting chance. While they ran for the edge of the paddock though, the raptor would soon cut them off and block their means of escape. Justin uses this opportunity to get the animal's attention by flailing his arms about and yelling loudly while he runs into the jungle. The raptor of course takes the bait, and Claire is left to find the weapons cache and help get them both out of there. Eventually, she finds the box, arms herself with a stunner and one of the tranquilizers before making her way back into the jungle. Immediately, when she starts going back the way she came, Claire would find blood trailing the jungle floor, and after running into the raptor later on, she manages to incapacitate the dinosaur with the can of bear mace that she'd been given earlier. Using this time to her advantage, Claire stuns the dinosaur, knocking it out and letting her get on with finding Justin. Unfortunately, when she finds Justin, she sees that he'd only managed to drag himself over to a tree and propped himself up against its trunk. While Justin is alive when Claire initially finds him, she quickly realizes that blood is trickling from the corner of his mouth. There's a dark wash of it spread across his chest too, meaning the animal had cut him deeply and he was bleeding internally. Since they'd more or less started a relationship together on the island, this left Claire in a pretty upsetting situation to say the least. The only reason she even managed to survive was because Justin had chosen to lead the raptor away while she went for the weapons box. And since they were in the middle of the jungle and away from any medical supplies, she knew park security wouldn't be able to save him in time with that serious amount of blood loss. Claire comforts Justin until his very last breath, and sometime later, Jurassic World security does come across both her and the young man's body. Of course, the events of that particular experience leave a pretty big impact on Dearing going forward, who asks to speak with Simon Masrani after and get to the bottom of everything that had been going on. There he reveals that there actually was another group of interns that had visited Jurassic World before Claire got there, but during a nasty storm, one of the kids died while trying to help the ailing brachiosaurs that I mentioned earlier. Her death was promptly covered up and the new Bright Minds project started. Claire demonstrates a noticeably detached demeanor following these events, and after successfully interrogating the other members of the program who hacked the security paddock, Simon offers her a full-time job at Jurassic World. From here on out, Claire evolves into something of a cold and business-oriented woman who we would all eventually get to meet in the 2015 film. Sadly, just like the intern that died before, Justin's death was promptly covered up by the company and hush money given to his mother in order to prevent any further complications. And just 1 year later, Jurassic World would become open to the public in 2005. Of course, these events that play out towards the end of the book really change Claire as a person and put her in the position that we first saw her in at the beginning of Colin Trevorrow's movie. She's changed considerably since then, but the death of Justin by one of Site B's raptors was definitely the most traumatic experience that the woman faced in her early adult life, and one that would define who she was as a person going forward. Anyways guys, I'd like to know what all of you think about this subject matter, and how many of you have actually read that Evolution of Claire tie-in novel? If you did read it, what are your thoughts on the story? If you didn't, I'd like to know why. Personally, it definitely ranks at the bottom of my list of favorite Jurassic Park stories, but there is stuff like this raptor killing it that I do think are valuable for the franchise going forward. Now, whatever your own opinions happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. Now before I go, I'd like to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Guys, it seriously means the world to me that you all continue to support what I do, and I never want you to ever forget that. Now, I'd like to thank you all for watching today's video, and hope you all enjoyed the content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.